stress. But a lot of these mushrooms are going to have actually help you deal with stress. Mushrooms like the reishi mushroom, mushrooms like the cordyceps, and these are things that we need to address when we're working on whole systems design. We have to address ourselves as the 0 point, as where everything's coming from. We have to make sure that we're okay first. We have to make sure that our system is functioning properly, mentally, spiritually, physically, all the whole nine. And mushrooms help aid on all those levels. I mean, 22 centuries ago, Taoist sages were observing reishi and figured out that it could be used medicinally, but they also utilized it to lighten the body or to achieve enlightenment. There's plenty of text of mystical experiences happening from the non-magic mushrooms, which is very, very achievable. These mushrooms are helping us to achieve a homeostasis, something that I had a revelation of last year, was that homeostasis cannot be achieved without symbiosis with local systems. And what I mean by this is that one will never achieve true homeostasis unless they're operating with the systems that are around them, unless you're eating the local foods, unless you're participating in the local culture. Without that, we're going to be struggling to reach that homeostasis point. And it goes on into tiers. I mean, we've had Native Americans that were so symbiotic with their systems that they could utilize the different plants and animals to extend their consciousness, almost utilizing that animal in its archetype, for lack of better words, to be that animal and understand what's going on in that part of the ecosystem. Use the trees to feel the weather patterns, the winds traveling through the trees, and so on and so forth. But just something polysaccharides is something that you're going to hear a lot with mushrooms. They're long chain sugars, mostly indigestible by our body, but trigger different immune functions with macrophages and white blood cells. They stimulate interleukin response, which is basically like a language that the cells in your immune system utilize to talk to each other, to say like, we need to send out a macrophage here to eat said foreign debris that's in our body, or we need to send out some white blood cells here to deal with said pathogen in the body. They just get everybody talking and recognizing what's wrong, what doesn't belong here, what does belong. Get your body grooving and working. And then a lot of the mushrooms are actually going to contain unique compounds that are specific to that mushroom. Let's say something like the hericium. In the hericium genus, they'll contain compounds like aranesines and hericenones, which are compounds that have been well studied for nervous system regrowth and helping with people with Alzheimer's. The Ganodermas are going to contain compounds called ganodurans, which are highly medicinal compounds. The reishi mushroom is actually the most studied medicinal mushroom on the planet. It's actually the most studied herb on the planet. It was considered an herb for a while.
Speculinus.
I mean, the Piptoporus speculinus is a great one. I mean, if this is on video right now, I definitely want to put a call out to the world if anybody has a good recipe for Piptoporus speculinus tea, because it's really bitter. But the Piptoporus speculinus is a really cool mushroom. That mushroom, as well as the chaga, they grow on birch trees, which the birch is actually a very medicinal tree in its own. The bark of the birch tree contains a compound called betulin, which is very, very good for anti-tumor compound. And the birch polypore and the chaga will actually concentrate that compound out of the birch tree, and you can then utilize that whenever you use it as a medicine. And for these reasons, I'll get a question in a second. But for these reasons, when you go to the store, if you go to like a healthy food store or something like that, and you get the chaga capsules, or something like that, or if you so happen to get a birch polypore capsules, it's going to be mycelium, and it's not going to contain those same compounds as if you were to get it from the tree, because it didn't grow on the tree. As well as it'll contain a lot more starches, because the mycelium is going to have to be grown on grains. So you're going to want to make sure and double check that you're actually getting gluten-free medicine, so it can benefit your body a little bit better. But this is for this reason we should be going out and learning how to wild harvest, meet with different clubs. There's clubs scattered around strategically to make sure that everybody has some sort of access. If you can go on NAMA, the North American Mycological Association, find which club's closest to you, and go out with some experts and learn what medicinal mushrooms you can find around your area. Turkey tail is going to be one of the easiest ones to go out. Tremades versicolor has a bunch of different colors. Usually there's so many variants throughout the world. Very fuzzy on the top, white pore surface on the bottom. Great mushroom for making teas. But yeah, just get out there and learn which mushrooms you can go out and get, because that's going to be the way that you can most benefit your body medicinally, is by consuming the mushrooms that are local to you, because they're actively working against those pathogens. Just like I was saying, how they have to deal with those microorganisms. The fungi that's growing out in the woods, in your woods, is going to be dealing with the same pathogens that are in your city, versus getting mushrooms that were shipped in all the way from the West Coast, so on and so forth. So that's a really good skill to have as an individual, or to seek out somebody that's in your community that is going and has the knowledge to forage mushrooms, and maybe work out some trades with them. And that's going to be something that will go along the lines with permaculture, is trading within your systems. And this is something that the fungi do. Trad always says the fungi are like the original carbon trading scheme. The fungi are always trading the minerals in and out of the plants. So it'd be really good to use biomimicry and utilize those same systems in our own systems, and start to trade things where needed in our communities, working towards a higher level of symbiosis. Symbiosis not only with the plants and fungi, but symbiosis with the humans that you have to live with, the humans that are part of your communities, regardless. I mean, they're going to be there, figuring out how to best work with them, or how to best lead them. All symbiosis in the same. What else I got on there? Ecotype design. Ecotype design is something I touched on a little bit before, when I was talking about how you would utilize specific fungi in your gardens. Same thing whenever you get into designing food forests, by choosing different trees that you can utilize that will form mycorrhizal relationships with fungi that you're looking for. A lot of mycorrhizal fungi are going to be harder to cultivate, but encouraging the ecology for those mushrooms is a little bit easier. Planting certain trees, chestnuts, apple trees, oak trees, just planting certain trees that will be beneficial. You can even go out and start planting trees that will grow fast. I mean, oaks are a really good fast-growing tree that you can utilize for cutting down and cultivating shiitakes. We have some really awesome shiitake cultivators over here. They know way more than I do. They've been cultivating shiitakes longer. But it's going to be good to incorporate trees that you can cycle through if you're going to be cultivating mushrooms on logs.
Coppicing as well on that tag. MycoPermaculture as well.
Oh yeah, coppicing is a great technique. Yeah, it's like almost creating the Hydra tree with like 1 million heads that you can utilize to create even diameter of logs for more even cultivation. And then microremediation comes into play when you're talking about ecotype design, especially when you're designing a property, when you're designing a piece of land that you're going to be working on a farm, or even just a little home in your own backyard. Designing around where the water is moving on your property, knowing where the water is coming from, especially when you're in urban environments. All the water's coming downhill onto my property, washing all the solvents and oils and things like that people are using in their yards, washing away all the Roundup, and it's going to come down in through my yard. So let me dig a trench in the area where the water first enters here, and bury burlap sacks filled with wood chips that contain King Stropharia or something like a tiger sawgill. These are mushrooms that are known to have very high quality microremediation properties. The Stropharia is very good at biological contamination, so it may